How we all getting along today? Well, any of y'all who follow my channel know I love my little Lotto tumbler. Belonged to Granny. Thing's pushing 40 years old, if not older. It's gone through a motor or two. And they weren't that hard to find, but now they've gotten extremely hard to find and extremely expensive. The only one I was able to find was 180 bucks, and you know, if anybody knows me, I'm a cheapskate. I sure in the heck wasn't going to do that. So I started looking for alternatives, and one of my favorite places to look is Surplus Center up in Lincoln, Nebraska. And while I was thumbing through their catalog, I was able to come across a pellet stove blower. There's the part number and what have you, for $18.95, and I thought that was worth a shot. Same RPM, didn't have any specs on the shaft diameters or anything, but it was worth a shot for 18 bucks, and if not, I'd turn it into something else. But what I was able to do with minimal purchasing of parts, just had to buy some extra screws and washers, I was able to turn that motor into a motor for my little rock polisher. Able to build the adapter plate out of the mount that came with the pellet stove blower. You can see mine's old enough that it has metal counterweights that attach to this shaft with a set screw. The newer ones, I believe, have plastic fans, and the counterweights are set in the fans. So this also enabled me to upgrade mine to being fan cooled, which it really needed. Them old motors ran pretty daggone hot. I've been running this motor here 24/7 for a month now, and I mean, it's ambient. It's not much above ambient temperature. It does not heat up at all. So I don't know whether that's due to the fans or just a more efficient motor than them old Dayton motors that came with them, but hey, I'll take it. You can see mounting screws in there. Did not have to modify the tumbler at all, so in case I ever decided to go back to what it originally was, it wouldn't be a problem. I originally did this up in the other shop, so I had the grinder and all that goodies up there, but I'm doing this one in the basement at the house, and I wanted to do it with just basic hand tools that everybody would have. So I left the grinder portion out. As far as tools, that's it right there. Got the old screw gun, benchtop drill press, the old motor disassembled for a template. I took one of the old motors, took the end cap off, pop the bearing out of it, and that is going to help me line up to drill my holes. Screwdriver for pulling the fan. The fans do have a little clip on them that you can reach in and take off with your needle nose pliers. Silver Sharpie, one of my favorite tools for marking out the diameter that you want to cut. And the only thing I had to purchase was 4 number 8 by 3/4 screws, 4 nylon lock nuts for it, and a handful of little washers. And yeah, and the old handy dandy blue Loctite, just to keep her from vibrating apart where it mounts to the motor. Well, I'm going to tear into this thing, and hopefully you all find it educational and informative. Alright y'all, bear with me. I am technologically challenged, to say the least, and somehow in my editing or downloading I have deleted the entire center of the video. Sorry about that, folks. So I'm going to go back and try to recreate the center part of the video, but that's tough. After you cut things apart, they just don't go back together the same. So bear with me. So to disassemble the motor, got a small clip, holds the fan cage on. Take the clip off. If you're not wanting to reuse these, if you've got the more modern tumbler and it already has fans, you won't care. Just jam a screwdriver in there, pry around to your little heart's content, and work it out through. I wanted to reuse mine, so I used a little more finesse and saved them. So it'll come out looking like that. But to fit it on mine, I took the tin snips and cut the fins off. Polish that down with the flapper disc so I can reuse those on mine. So we'll set them out of the way. So then you reach in back in there. There's 4 1/4-inch screws back in there. You take out those 4 1/4-inch screws. I use the handy dandy Milwaukee driver there. Take the squirrel cage off. Throw that out of the way. So that brings you down to your bracket. And if it was still in one piece, it would look something similar to this. So this is where your old motor comes in. There's 4 clips that holds the end cap onto your motor. So it has studs sticking out that are your mounting studs. So I disassembled one of the old motors, used it to slide onto the shaft and mark where I wanted to drill for the new mounting bolts for the new plate I made. So I just made a couple little scratches on there. Then I was able to take the whole thing over to the drill press, take it off, and it is a 5/32 drill bit. So where you put your scratches, center punch it, 5/32 hole. Then come the fun part of the first one I built. I used the grinder and just cut it out, but I was up in the other shop where I don't have to worry about setting off the smoke alarm. I set off the smoke alarm, it upsets Mama, she screams at me, wants to know what I'm doing. It's better off that she doesn't know. So in lieu of doing that, I used the 10 snips, and I skipped the tedious part of slowly nipping that thing out of there with a pair of 10 snips. It's pretty heavy, but it worked. Once I got that done, I chucked her up in the vise, dressed her up a little bit with the flapper disc, and used the side I had just drilled out as a template for the second side. So just put them together, put a couple of bolts in it as guides, chucked it up in the vise, marked the holes, brought her over to the drill press, and drilled them out. So sorry I had to jump around like that, but back to the rest of the video. Alright, so I skipped the slow, tedious process of me hacking that out of there. The grinder would have worked easier, but I didn't, like I said, didn't want to set the smoke detector off above my head. I did take the flapper wheel and dress it up just a hair, take some of the sharp edges off of it after I'd done it. Went ahead and trimmed down the fan. I will take the flapper wheel and dress that up just a hair. And if yours already has a cooling fan, you probably won't need to do that step. So now we've got our parts. Pay particular attention to the orientation. You want to make sure that your two new holes that you've drilled are oriented up and down. I did skip, I think that's a 5/32 drill bit to fit that number 8 screw. That's just for your general information. So now we're going to go putting this thing together. You may not have to use Loctite, but I figured better safe than sorry. So I'm going to give each one of them a little drop of blue Loctite so they stay where they're supposed to. Set the new bracket down over the top. Add a washer. Originally they did not have washers, but the holes are kind of elongated and I didn't want any trouble. I don't want the thing flying apart in the middle of the night waking me up. So we put those in. In theory, once you made a pair of these brackets, you could, with that blue Loctite, you'd be able to get that back apart and use it again. That way you don't have to go through this once. And those bolts were 1/4 inch in case you're wondering. Save you a little bit of time fumbling around trying to figure out. I was surprised that they weren't metric, but it seemed like 1/4 inch fits them just fine. Alright, make sure I put my bracket on there. Just like so. These are good old rock polishers. Used just a regular tumbler for a long time, but this thing sure, they don't shape them near as nice, but that Lotto tumbler sure cuts the time down. You know, you can do a batch of rocks in a week for this thing. You want to do your own research. They're relatively expensive, but I think they're well worth the money and do an excellent job. This one's been running, like I said, for 40 years. I have never replaced the springs on it. I do have a pair of replacement springs in case they ever do break. One of these days I might just put them on it just for fun because I'm sure these are getting fatigued. I did have to tune it a little bit. I thought maybe it agitating the rock as well as it could after I did install this motor, probably because it's off center a little bit. The weight of the motor's hanging in the back. Maybe I might try mounting it like that. But so there you go. Make sure you put your nuts toward the inside so they don't rub on your fans. If yours has the fans with the counterweights already in them, you're done. Once you mount that bad dad up, you just slide the fans on and there she goes. And just to show you how well she works, can't ask for anything better than that. So you got some entertainment value out of it, I hope, and I got me a spare motor. Like and subscribe, do all the algorithm goodies. One of these days I plan on being a huge social media influencer and can quit my day job. I don't see that happening. Y'all have a good day.